We begin with the much anticipated New York mayoral race taking place today as President Donald Trump has endorsed former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is now vying to lead America's largest city. The endorsement came with a warning to voters not to elect Democratic frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, who he labeled a communist. In a Truth Social post, the president said, quote, "I would much rather see a Democrat who has had a record of success win than a communist with no experience." He went on to call Mamdani's potential win a complete and total economic and social disaster. The president even threatened to withhold federal funds from the city of New York if Mamdani were to win the mayoral race tonight.
If communist candidate Zohran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home, because of the fact that, as a communist, this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival.
President Trump's endorsement of Cuomo came as a surprise to many, given the two men's history of tense relations during Cuomo's time as governor of New York. Cuomo was critical of the president's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, yet President Trump made clear that in his view, a vote for Cuomo was the only way to prevent what he sees as a far-left takeover of America's largest city. Trump earlier made similar remarks in a 60 Minutes interview with CBS News over the weekend, offering a tepid endorsement of Cuomo and calling Mamdani a communist.
I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or another, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
In his Truth Social post, President Trump also criticized the Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa, saying that voting for him would effectively hand the race to Mamdani. He even mocked Sliwa's trademark red beret, suggesting he would look much better without one. Now Mamdani, for his part, responded sharply to Trump's remarks, urging New Yorkers to stand up to bullies.
I will address that threat for what it is. It is a threat. It is not the law. And too often we treat everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth as if it is already legal just by virtue of who is saying it. And it is time to finally stand up to the bullies that make these threats, not to become the bullies ourselves. And we've seen time and time again that the best way to respond to Donald Trump and to defeat these kinds of threats is to actually stand up and fight back.
Deciding to pile on, tech billionaire Elon Musk also entered the conversation, posting on X to endorse Andrew Cuomo as well. Musk told his followers that voting for Republican Curtis Sliwa would effectively benefit Mamdani. But his post quickly drew backlash for misspelling Mamdani's name as, quote, Mamdummy, a move critics also appeared to say was deliberate. Now, as Election Day approaches, the three-way contest remains tightly contested. Cuomo, running as an independent after losing the Democratic primary, spent Monday crisscrossing all 5 boroughs, urging New Yorkers to get out and vote. At his campaign stops, he drew parallels between Mamdani's platform and left-wing governments in Latin America. Mamdani, meanwhile, began his final day of campaigning at sunrise by walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, later rallying volunteers in Queens. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee known for founding the Guardian Angels, visited a Brooklyn subway station to lay a wreath for a woman who was killed there last year before meeting supporters across the outer boroughs. Polls currently show Mamdani leading the race, with Cuomo trailing behind and Sliwa in a distant third. However, polls as of late have showed the race actually tightening.
For me, Zohran was the most clear about his intended goals and the ways he was going to reach them. For instance, like matching the corporate tax rate to that of Jersey's 11.5% and explaining the mechanisms by which he was going to do that. I think a lot of the other candidates, especially Cuomo, whenever I did my research, was far more vague and it was a lot more kind of normative assertions about what's right and what's wrong and what's good and not. But it's like, at the end of the day, what are you going to do?
As New Yorkers head to the polls, the true impact of President Trump's endorsement and whether they will sway any undecided voters in a city that has long rejected him politically remains to be seen.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point. Well, we've got all three just for you. This is First Post Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.